The Grande Torino team was one of the greatest teams that's ever played football. It was a team that emerged out of the Second World War. Torino is one of the two teams in Italy, sorry, two teams in Turin. And they've been quite good for most of the period of Italian football before the Second World War. But they built a team in the post 1945 period, already during the war, but especially in post 45, that was extraordinarily good for a whole series of reasons. The manager, the president, the fans. And it's one of the greatest teams to ever play the game, not just because they were almost unbeatable from 1945 onwards, but that they were played a very kind of modern form of attacking football, scoring a lot of goals and winning games, not just 1-0 or 2-1, but sort of 7-0 and so on. One game they were like 6-0 up after 15 minutes. And contained some of the most famous players ever to play. So the Grande Torino team emerges from the Second World War, from the rubble of Italy. It's very closely connected to an idea of rebirth. And they keep winning championships, and not by a small amount in post-war Italy. And then we come to the story that I'm going to tell, which is not really about the Grande Torino as a team, which it will be another story to tell, but about the kind of end of the Grande Torino, which comes in a terrible tragedy. The 4th of May, 1949, the team has basically won their 5th championship in a row, and they've gone off for a friendly in Portugal, and they're flying back in this plane. And there are various stories about what happened. There are conspiracy theories and all kinds of things. The plane, it's a very bad weather, and the plane crashes into the back of a church that looms above the city. When you're in Turin, this church is a kind of church you can see from everywhere. It's called Superga, and it was built by a very famous architect called Filippo Juvara. And it's a very important church in Italian history. It's where the monarchy was buried. It's the tombs of the kings. Italy had a monarchy until 1945, when it was abolished by referendum. So the plane crashes into the wall at the back of the Basilica di Superga. Everybody inside is killed, which includes 90% of the Grande Torino team. A couple of players hadn't gone. Also includes managers, journalists, support staff. There's actually an English trainer called Leslie Leavesley, who was tipped to take over the Grande Torino, who also dies, who would be a whole book on his own, really. And it's a terrible shock to everybody involved, really. As you can imagine, this was a team that went beyond other teams, and it just disappears overnight. These are all young men, and they're no longer around. And people are sort of traumatized. I spoke to some Torino fans when I was writing the book, and they sort of had very vivid memories of being told the news or buying the newspaper and not really believing it, and still kind of burst into tears when they told the story. So it's a really incredible moment. Probably the only kind of obvious comparison would be with the Munich air disaster in Manchester United. But even in that case, some of the players survived, some of the most important players like Bobby Charlton. In this case, everybody is wiped out. The only player who really of any importance who survives is a defender who's not particularly well known. And in the aftermath of the Superga crash, there's the funeral, and it's absolutely enormous. 200,000 people attend the funeral. You can see the picture of it here in the centre of Turin. It's a very, very kind of there's a great catharsis. There are people in tears. It brings together the whole city, in fact, the whole of the country in many ways, in a kind of mourning for this youth. Of course, it also brings back memories of the war, of all the people who've just died in bombings and planes and all kinds of accidents. And it brings back kind of vivid memories of that as well.